All right. Welcome to the Voncast Show. I'm your host, Vaughn. Hope you are doing well today. Today, I got the host of Untouchable Babes podcast, Meg. How's it going?
I'm doing great. How are you, Vaughn? Thanks for having me.
Doing good. No problem. You prefer Meg or Megan?
You can call me either. I don't have a preference.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. All right. So how are you doing today?
I'm doing good. There's a bit of like corporate drama at my day job, and maybe we can talk about that. Because I am like,
Sure.
I do make content, but I also have a full-time 9 to 5. I know there's people out there who juggle both. So I have a full-time 9 to 5, a bit of drama. They were like, oh, you guys have to return to the office. I just got that announcement like 2 days ago. So unfortunately, I'm trying to look for other jobs right now, unexpectedly, in case they don't let me work remote. So that's what I'm going through right now. Aside from that, I'm doing great.
No, that's tough.
Yeah.
I know I have a lot of friends that really enjoy the work from home, the remote setting.
Yeah.
But then going back to the office, it's not the same.
I'm not opposed to it. It's just, and this is part of my story too. I'm a single mom right now, and my childcare situation, like I can't leave the home right now until my daughter's in school, and the office is an hour away. So it's just logistically, it's not what I signed up for. And it's just a whole like, corporate bureaucratic mess. But it's just one of those things that it's like, dang, I wish I became an entrepreneur like way earlier in my life so I don't have to deal with this mess. But yeah, I mean, that's life,
That's life.
Yeah.
Okay. So I found out you told me you're Filipino.
Yes.
Very cool.
Uh-huh.
I don't know. What are your favorite Filipino foods?
Oh gosh. So I'm trying to think back. So I was born in the Philippines and I lived there until I was 7. And just off the top of my head, I remember loving sinigang. And I know like different areas make it different, but like where I'm from Manila, and I have family from Pampanga. So sinigang is a favorite. Kare-kare. You know kare-kare? With the peanut butter? Yes, with the oxtail. That's like a childhood favorite. And of course the desserts, can't go wrong with halo-halo, the turon. Yeah.
Okay.
Those are my faves.
I'm tripping out right now because I was born in the Philippines.
Yeah, awesome.
I lived there till I was 7.
Oh, wow. Okay, same as me.
So I lived 2 hours away from Manila in the province in Pampanga.
Wait, you're from Pampanga too?
Yeah, I'm a Balaka.
Way. You speak a Pampangan?
Dita.
Oh my gosh, that is so cool.
And my favorite is I'm not making this up. This is on a previous episode.
Yeah.
Kare-kare.
Oh my gosh, we're the same person. Maybe you're like my brother. You're my long lost brother.
No, I'm tripping out right now because
that's crazy.
I'm speechless right now.
Pampanga is such a small province. I have not met anyone else aside from my family who's from there. And like the language we speak, Pampangan, is so specific. Mm-hmm. And for people who are not Filipino listening to this, there's thousands of islands in the Philippines, and there's like thousands of dialects. So you have like, what are they, Vaughn? Like Cebuano, there's Ilonggo, Ilocano. So
there's a lot.
Our dialect is very, very specific to this one region. And Vaughn's the first person I've met outside of my family who's from Pampanga.
Yeah, no, because I'm tripping out.
Me too.
I'm Balaka. Oh man, yeah.
Awesome. Okay.
No, yeah.
We should go visit together. If you go back to visit family, then we can hang out.
Yeah, dude. Okay, yeah. Kare-kare is my favorite.
Nice.
Oxtail.
Mm-hmm.
When I was younger, I thought it was kind of weird, but I liked it, and I didn't realize I was a lot older that it has peanut butter.
Yeah, I didn't realize that either until I like Googled the ingredients one day.
Yeah. And then sinigang always.
Sinigang. Yeah.
Filipino breakfast are good.
The pandesal. You gotta have the pandesal and like the fried eggs over rice. People don't understand that. Mm-hmm. Like, sometimes I'll have the Filipino breakfast with like, rice and like, they're like, why do you eat rice in the morning? And I'm like, we eat it like for all meals of the day and snacks.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. That's a trip.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Tripping out.
Okay. I'm tripping out. I'm tripping hard right now. So I found out about your page, your Instagram, your podcast and everything on Threads.
Mm-hmm.
It's a really cool app. I've been getting a lot of podcast guests from there. It's a really cool app to join, especially on the sobriety threads.
Yes.
I'm 18 months clean.
Wow.
And I read on one of your threads in the sobriety threads that you used to drink, but you don't anymore. So talk to us about how you got into drinking and pretty much what got you to stop and what got you to stop?
Yeah. So it's a very big part of my story because I have been sober for almost a decade now, 10 years. I did have one relapse in 2019, unfortunately, for a few months. I was going through a really dark time in my life, but overall, it's been 10 years of just no alcohol. The why did I stop? So I was 21 years old. And I was in college at the time. And you know how it's like, for a while there, I blamed college culture a lot. You know, it's like you go to parties, frat parties, like, oh, it's not my fault. Just, people keep inviting me to parties. So there was a lot of like pointing the finger at other people. But I just got to the breaking point where I realized I was constantly hurting the people around me. I was in a very committed relationship at the time, and I inadvertently cheated on him, which is like so unlike my nature. Like I'm a very like loyal, hardworking person, and like I would constantly do things like that where I would black out, and then the next day I'd realize I did something horrible. Like I betrayed a friend, I cheated on someone, like I spent a lot of money, I broke something. It's like every single time I was causing mayhem around me, whether it was hurting myself or hurting other people. And it just got to the point where it's like little by little, my friends fell apart. My boyfriend at the time was like, I don't want to deal with you. Like he broke up with me. Right. And so I just had to reach that point of like internal rock bottom where it's like, yo, who is the common denominator here? It's me. Like, because as I told you, Yvonne, like I blamed everyone around me for the longest time. Like I blamed college culture. I blamed binge drinking culture. But at the end of the day, it was me. I was the one who was choosing to put the alcohol in my body. Right. So I eventually found myself in AA. So I know not everyone goes through 12-step program, but for me, it saved my life. Like it saved my life. It taught me how to take ownership and accountability for my life. It's like, yo, I'm the problem, right? Because that's the thing that keeps people from healing is like you're in denial and you blame other people around you. But AA taught me like, look, to change your life, you have to, first of all, accept that you're different. Like I cannot drink alcohol the same as other people. So Vaughn, like, I don't know what your reasons are, but like for me, it's like, I have friends who can drink alcohol. Like they can have just one glass of wine and that's great. I'm so happy for them. But unfortunately, I'm not like that. I cannot just have one glass of wine. I cannot just have one shot of vodka. Like for me, it's like, even though I'm 10 years sober now, I know if I go to the bar tonight and I order a glass of wine, it's not just going to be one glass for me. I'm going to drink 10 bottles because that's how I am. And so it takes a lot of like internal growth to accept that about you. But now I can say these things and not feel any shame about it. It's like, no, I don't feel shame about it. I've accepted it. I've owned it. And that's why I personally decide to abstain from alcohol so I can protect my values and of course the people I care about. Plus I'm a mom now. Like I'm a mom, I'm a single mom. I got like bills to pay. There ain't no time to like, like get blacked out and like get kicked out of bars and stuff. That's like, I got no time in my life for that right now. But yeah, in a nutshell, Vaughn, that's like how I got to this point. I was 21 years old and I hit rock bottom. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
No, thank you for sharing. I resonated a lot with that. So alcohol was was the early drug I tried that like really I had issues with. I like how you said you're hurting yourself and everybody around you.
Yeah.
I blacked out almost every time I drank. I thought it was, you're right. I like the accountability thing. At the end of the day, it was me who decided to drink. But I will say that the culture around me going to college and drinking, I thought it was normal.
Yeah.
You see your tias and your lolas, you see everybody drinking.
Yeah.
So you're thinking, that's normal. This is how adults do. I'm an adult.
Yeah.
I remember cheating as well. I mean, half the time I wasn't drunk, but I was like partially drunk, made bad decisions. I remember like breaking someone's bong. I paid him the next day. I'm like, they're like, oh, like, hey, bro, I mean, they weren't super mad.
Yeah.
But hey, bro, you remember what happened last time? I'm like, no, like, well, bro, like, you got her bong, and you donkey kicked it, bro, and you like broke it. I'm like, oh my god, bro, I had no idea. I'm so sorry. I gave him the money. Like, oh no, it's cool, bro. But that's like one of the ones that was a lot nicer. But I've definitely said things where I wake up the next day and people tell me, oh, bro, do you remember what, you told so-and-so, or, hey, when you were drunk, you said this and that, and I have to pick up the pieces and I have to apologize. And it's difficult because it's like, it's not that I don't believe them, but it's just, I don't remember saying this.
Right. It's not you.
So there's this.
You're a different person.
It's not me.
Right.
But, and then it's me. I later on I graduated onto other drugs. I don't say that like all the drugs were not healthy, but of all of them, surprisingly, it was the alcohol that made the biggest mess of my life. Blacking out, not remembering, and just the hangover is horrible.
Yeah.
I work a program, 12-step NA.
Nice.
Again, it's not for everybody. I want to point that out because there are other ways to recovery. I think as long as you recover in some sort of way, it's what works for you, But yeah, that's cool that you were able to figure that out a lot earlier.
Yeah.
I'm 36. I found this out 34 years old. So good for you.
It's never too late. Yeah. Yeah. And I love what you said, Vaughn, when you said like, I was picking up the pieces. I love that because that's exactly how my life was as a drunk. It's like, and I posted this on Threads. It's like, I felt like I was playing investigator, after every single bender, like when I woke up the next day, it's like what you said. What did I do? I have no idea who I texted, what money I spent, what I broke, what bar I was kicked out of. And I was constantly putting the pieces together, as you said, like contacting people, like, what did I say? Oh my God, like, what did I do? It's like, it's exhausting to live like that, not knowing who you become, like whenever you drink. So at some point, yeah, you have to reach that like internal rock bottom of like, I can't live the rest of my life like this. Yeah.
Yeah. It's difficult, just being in that state. It was just tough. I don't know. It was just tough. Like, I have a question. When people told you had a problem, if they did, did you get defensive or did you accept it?
Oh, yes. And that's the thing. It's like, that was the only way for me to get sober is I had to like get over the excuses. But yeah, there was a lot of my friends were like, yo, you have a problem. Like, you don't drink the same way as us. Like, yo, you keep like hurting people. You keep breaking shit. And I would be like, no. Like what you said, like everyone's doing it. This is just college culture. Like, so yeah, a lot of people were definitely like wanting me to to like fix my problem for sure.
Same here. And it was just tough because it's like, well, you drink. And like you said, I had to realize that I'm not like everybody else. For the longest, I mean, it seems like I'm like everybody else. I mean, look similar. We have the same jobs. We go to the same school, the same classes, and it never stuck to me that I am an addict and I didn't want to admit it. And it was just tough because it's like, what's so different? I mean, like, I kind of knew the difference. Some people stop doing drugs and alcohol at a certain time at night. I kept going into the weekend, maybe until Monday morning. And it was just difficult to accept that I can't do that. At first, it was hard. It's like, well, what about this and that? And then now I'm like, all right, it's okay. I'm okay with that. Like, I don't have to challenge myself. Like, oh, you can do it. I would tell myself, well, you can just stop at this. I would do things for like, okay, let me set an alarm. This alarm, I'll stop drinking and doing drugs at this time. But then I'd go, let me just do half an hour more, man. Come on. It's cool, bro. It's cool. You don't got work the next day. And it'd go on. So yeah, very similar story. And do you see like a lot of Filipinos or Asians in the rooms?
No, actually, that's a very interesting point. So I got sober in Williamsburg. So I'm actually from Virginia originally. My school itself, like Virginia as a whole, where I lived, was pretty diverse, but specifically the rooms of AA, I can probably count on less than one hand the number of Asians. And I preferred women-only meetings. Like, Vaughn, you know this, like going to NA, but there are mixed meetings and women's meetings. I got the most value out of women's meetings because there's some topics that I just feel more comfortable talking about with women. And of course, like there's the whole sponsor-sponsee thing, right? So I sponsored a lot of women and vice versa. I had one woman who was Asian. She was my sponsor. And then I sponsored someone who was like half Asian. And I see, aside from those two women, I can't remember anyone else. So yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting because I feel like in our culture it's almost a shame.
Yeah.
It's very shameful to ask for help.
Yeah.
There's something there because like you, I go to all men's meeting. I mean, I go to both, but mainly men's meeting, I get a lot of out of it. And like you said, there's some things that men feel more comfortable talking about with men.
Mm-hmm.
And I like you said, I can count with one hand how many Asians. And it's like, well, either Asians they're like impervious to being addicts, or there's a bunch of them they just maybe don't seek help in that way.
Closeted,
so that's
closeted Asian addicts. Yeah.
I mean, it's a scary topic. I mean, for some, but that's something interesting.
And also right to mention this, like, I can tell you right now, my parents, like, whenever I bring up the topic of like AA and like me being an alcoholic, they just dismiss it like it doesn't exist. Like, I remember back in the day when I used to go to meetings a lot, they would just not understand. They'd be like, where are you going? Like, what? Like, it's just like my parents and my family, they, like the older people, like my sister, she supports me, of course, but like the older folks, they just don't understand what is alcoholic, what is AA. So that's interesting too. I don't know how your family has reacted to you on that.
I don't really tell him. My uncle knows, but I don't really talk to him about I don't really tell my parents.
And that's unfortunate, right? Like, I wish that we could be open, like, with my daughter, like if she was, God forbid, ever going through something like that, I'd want her to be able to talk to me about anything. So that's just kind of a little sad to me. Yeah.
It's interesting. Okay. How long do you have? Because I know we can talk for a while, but I don't know.
The time that you booked is good. Yeah, until noon my time. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So I'm gonna skip over some questions. Yeah. All right, because this is a good conversation. That's a good sign. Okay, so like I noticed as I listen to your podcast, very cool topics. A couple things that I really liked. You talked about the soft life.
Yeah.
Like, what is that? And why are you over hustle culture?
Oh, that's a great question. So my default mode is to hustle. And maybe that's just part of my personality. Like, I'm a very type A, go-getter, independent person. Like for instance, this whole corporate bullshit that I'm going through. Like I told you, Vaughn, the moment I found out, I was on LinkedIn. I've applied to like 50 jobs already. Like, I don't waste time, and I like to get what I want, right? But last year was very eye-opening for me because I did try the whole like content creator influencer thing. I was like, let's give it a shot because, as a single mom, it's kind of tough right now financially. So I was like, let's see if anything comes from this. I'm just curious. Let me like try the whole TikTok thing. And for a while there, it was pretty fun. I got a lot of good practice. I had some videos go viral. Like, some woman really resonated with my story. I was like, oh my gosh, maybe I could like do something with this. So I was like, okay, I need to be on a schedule. And, I researched like, what did the successful YouTubers do, influencers do? So I did the whole thing. I invested in marketing courses. I invested in copywriting courses. It's like, I did everything possible to like, okay, I'm going to like maybe make this my full-time job. But not really, because I was still working my 9 to 5. See, that's a very important thing because I am a single mom. I got to pay bills. So I was trying to like do the whole full-time content creator schedule in addition to a demanding corporate 9 to 5 job, in addition to being a single mom. So I was trying to do like 3 full-time jobs all at once. And for a while there, I was deleting myself like, oh yeah, I got this. Like, because as I told you, like, that's always how I've been. Like, I was that kid in college who worked 3 jobs to pay for college, right? I was that teenager who worked like 4 jobs, right? Because that's me. But eventually, like, end of last year, I just got to the point where I wasn't sleeping. Like, I was like getting 2-3 hours sleep a night. I wasn't focused at my job because like I was trying to like secretly do content creator stuff like during my day job. So it became a huge mess. I found myself being like not as present of a mother as I wanted to be. So it was impacting my relationship with my daughter. So it's very like sly in that way where it's like you can delude yourself like, oh, I got this. I'm okay. I can function on no hours of sleep. It's fine. I can just eat ramen for like the 100th time this week. But it's like that will catch up to you. And that was what I realized. Like, health wise, like my body, it's like I wasn't working out as much, and health is very important to me. yeah, it just affected my life holistically. And again, very similar to the whole, like, why did I get sober story? I had to hit like kind of like a little minor rock bottom of like, do I really like this? Like, am I really enjoying myself where I'm not present during my day job and I'm not present during this content creation stuff because I'm distracted with my day job and I'm not present with my daughter? It's like, I felt like I was just a ghost, you know? And so it was actually good for me to go through that because it was a good experience. It taught me what I wanted and did not want. And that's why now I have a podcast. It's kind of like, I tried the whole short form thing. It was cool, but it's like, that's a little bit too taxing for me. Let me switch over now to a different form of content. And now I spend less time, more focused time on just the podcast, just a podcast and newsletter. Yeah, I will post like a reel every now and then, but it's not how it was last year where it was like, oh my God, every single minute, TikTok here, like Instagram there. It was just like too much for me. And I know some people can do that and that's great, but like I have to be real with my situation. I'm a single mom. I work a full-time 9 to 5. So to answer your question, what is a soft life? It's living a life where you are not sacrificing like the things that are important to you, like your health and your wellness and relaxation and self-care. You know, like I deserve to sit for an hour and read a book for fun. I deserve to watch a show on Netflix. Like to me, that's the soft life. It's like you are still going after your goals, but you are not doing it at the expense of your health and your well-being and self-care. Does that make sense? So that's kind of like my definition of the soft life.
I like that.
Yeah.
I can relate to a lot of that. I have a full-time job.
Okay.
I really enjoy it. Not a parent, but it's still like very taxing in that sense where I remember a few years ago, I think the internet was all about that. Like, oh yeah, fuck sleep, grind hard, go hard, go home. And I bought into it. It felt cool. You know, I felt like I was doing stuff. Mm-hmm. I mean, the whole time I think I was just a little delusional because one, I was doing a lot of drugs. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And I think that influenced like how I was thinking. I was like, oh yeah, I can do this. I make music, I podcast as well. Yeah. I'm going to do all these things and I still do it. But I felt like I had to do a lot. And that I was like, a lot of it was social media related. Like I have to keep doing this to get this amount of views and all that stuff. Exactly. And I don't know. I stopped kind of, I don't know. I started dreading doing these things and I had to just really like, I don't know, take a step back so much and just, like you said, focus on my health more. You know, like after I get home from a long day's work, do I really want, I mean, I can if I want to, like I have to be honest with myself and tell myself, do I really want to make content or I'm just going to relax? And a lot of times, like, I'm just going to relax. Like, who cares? Like, at the end of the day, it's okay. Because I feel like sometimes rest in our heads, like we were taught you can't rest until you do X, Y, and Z. Mm-hmm. You know, but now I really like my sleep. Yes. I get a lot of it. It's very important. And before it's like, oh, I have to do all these things, or I'd stay up at night thinking, oh, how come I'm not getting these many views? What can I do? Right. All these things. And it's like, man, the algorithm is always changing. Mm-hmm. I feel like no matter what I do, it's not going to be enough. Exactly. I mean, if I really wanted to, I could really like focus on the content creating, but it's like, why? Yeah. I don't know. It's like, I have a small audience that likes what I do. I think I'm cool with that. Yeah. I love that. In my head, there's this thing where it's like, oh, I gotta get like verified the right way and like get a bunch of views, oh my God, get a bunch of likes. Yeah. But I think that's my ego. Yeah. It really is. I think that's, you know, I'm searching for external validation. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. And it's important to remember too, that everyone is in a different situation. Like, of course, there are full-time content creators out there, full-time influencers, and they love their job. And it's like, you really have to look at the person's situation. It's like for me, I'm a single mom and I got to like pay some immediate bills where I can't wait till I blow up on Instagram in order to pay those bills. I can't wait till these are still goals that I have. Like, I hope that I can monetize my podcast someday. I hope that I can write a book. And that is like a goal of mine. But it's like, I need to be realistic, as you said. And so kind of like my tip here for people who are like experimenting with content creation and stuff, it's a very fulfilling job. It's fun. It teaches you a lot of good skills. But don't compare. And for me,
The moment that I stopped comparing, the moment that I prioritized the soft life more, like very much like you, Vaughn, it's like, well, I do have like a rough schedule, but I'm not like stressing over it. It's like, oh, well, I wanted to release my podcast last night, but my day job got busy. Am I going to stress over it? No, like that day job takes priority, obviously. So it's like, this is what I tell my teammates at my job. I tell them, look, we're not heart surgeons. We are not heart surgeons. No one is going to die on the operating table if this doesn't get done by the deadline. So similar to what we do, no one is going to die if Vaughn doesn't post a podcast at exactly 9 p.m. Eastern time on this. It's like, you know what I mean? Like what we do is not that important. It's important to enjoy life as well. Like don't be a slave to your job, whether that's your day job or, side things that you like to do for fun. Yeah.
Yeah, it's weird but we glorify that.
Yeah.
I mean, I admit I did, because there's that thing that's like, yeah, while this person's sleeping, this other person's like, no, there's this thing like, oh, while you're sleeping, I'm doing X, Y, and Z.
Good for you.
It's like at first but now it's like, well, okay, that's cool, dude. Cool. Like if you want to do that, and I think there's this thing about in the end, it's going to pay off. It's going to pay off, but to what extent? I mean, there's been times when I had good amount of money. Not from, honestly, it's because of the pandemic. I got that check, the stimulus check. Mm-hmm. I wasn't in the right mindset. I blew it on fucking drugs, man. Like, and it's like, it goes to show that like, I don't think that having all the money and everything is anything if your mindset isn't right.
Exactly.
Yeah, I guess I could make a bunch of money and do all this, but man, if my mindset's not there, if my mental health isn't there, I don't think it's gonna,
Yeah. Oh, you're speaking my language, Vaughn. Like that is like the whole reason I started my podcast. So Untouchable Babes, I like to talk about mindset, and something that I preach a lot is like nothing in your life matters. Like money, wealth, relationships, the big house, nothing matters until your mind is straight. Because as you said, Vaughn, like you can make the 500K salary a year. And then you can have someone who makes a 30K salary a year. I can bet you the person with a lower salary, but like with a good mindset, who doesn't have scarcity mindset, they have abundance mindset, they're probably going to do a lot more with their 30K a year than the guy who's 300K a year, but he's all just fucked up in the mind. And he maybe he blows it on something. He doesn't invest it. Right. So like nothing matters unless your mind is straight. Like I really, really believe that. Yeah.
That's true. I'm thinking, man, part of me is like, I hope I never win the lottery. That's why I don't play.
Right.
Because I know if I do,
you know yourself.
I don't know if
that's self-awareness.
I know myself.
That's self-awareness.
I'll be like, ooh, like I got money.
Right.
I know what I'm going to do. I know who I'm going to call, this and that. So there's just this, it's weird. But like you said, it's the mindset. And I think it's nice that I think overall people are realizing that, hey, maybe sacrificing my sleep, my health in the long run, it's not worth it to make a few extra dollars. Exactly. I mean, I guess it can pay off to a degree.
Yeah.
But there's a time, but you can't do it forever.
Right. Yeah. There's a time and place for it, I think is what you're trying to say. Like, back in college, there were times we needed to cram to get the paper done or to study for exams. But do we cram every single night of every single semester? No, we don't. It's just for very, very short moments for specific projects. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And I'm in my 30s now. I'm 36, and I can't be like, I prioritize sleep over a lot of things.
It's so important.
I'll sleep. If I told my younger self that, I'd be like, whatever.
You're a loser.
Lame. You're a loser. But, and looking at it now, it's like, I feel a lot better just getting more sleep. And hey, I'm doing the best I can, with what I'm doing with what I have. Like you said, other people, everyone has a different, schedule, different life. And I do feel like social media, we do just show the highlights of what we do, which is fine. But I think for a lot of us, including myself, sometimes I don't factor in the things that you said, where it's about, hey, you don't know this person's like story, or, they could be making a bunch of content one day, and, you just never know. So I try not to compare. It's really tough.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really tough.
Yeah. You probably heard this saying in the rooms, but one of my first sponsor, actually, she told me something I'll never forget. And it's never compare your insides to someone's outsides. And I remember she told me that because I was having a day where I was comparing. I was comparing myself to a friend who I thought just, just petty, like when you're in your early 20s, you worry about the stupidest shit. It's like, oh my God, she's like prettier. She gets invited to more parties. She has more friends. I was, complaining about the stupid 21-year-old shit. But when she said that, I was like, holy shit, you're right. Like, I literally don't know what's going on with her. All I see is what's on the outside. All I see is what she posts on Instagram, whatever. But I really don't know what's going on in her heart. Like, I don't know what battle she's going through, right? So yeah, I try to keep that in mind with like every person I interact with. And it just honestly makes my life so much easier, when I'm not worrying about things that like I don't know about or that I can't control. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's really difficult too. Just to let go, that surrender. But yeah, I feel like as long as I get through today without using, I'll be okay. Speaking of stuff in the room, I know there's a thing about resentments.
Yes.
Yep. Man.
Yep. Good stuff right there.
Yeah. It's just why I know also on the podcast you talk about why we should not take things personally. Mm-hmm. It's so difficult sometimes.
Oh, yeah, it's hard.
But oh man, part of me I like feeling angry sometimes. There's like that vindication. It's like
it's deserved.
Like, man, like,
yeah,
it's deserved, But then I feel like I don't know. I keep these resentments for so long, and I don't know. I don't know if it's what is. I don't know what it's fueling. Honestly,
yeah,
Yeah. But what's your take on taking things personally?
So I kind of want to make it broader for a second. Just talk about any negative human emotion, whether it's resentment, jealousy, sadness, grief. So this is like the stoicism concept that I like to preach. And a lot of people think like stoics are just cold, unfeeling bitches. Oh my gosh, you don't feel anything. You're just a statue. Like, that's not what it is. You are allowed to feel emotions like resentment because we're human. Right? We are reacting naturally to things that happen to us in life that we can't control. Okay. So going back to resentment, like, it's normal that I feel that. I expect to feel that. Okay. But the key to like enjoying life is to train yourself not to dwell in it. So I was listening to a podcast actually just this morning. The guy said something like, and I posted it on my threads too. He said something like, remember, but don't dwell. Okay. Remember, but don't dwell. So feel the feelings, validate yourself. Okay. Because you deserve to validate yourself, but don't stay in that for like a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks. Right. And then this, again, tying it back to the rooms of AA. I heard a lot of great quotes like, feelings are like children. You don't want them driving the car, but you don't want to stuff them into the trunk either. Right. So don't suppress it, but don't let them lead the way. And then similar to that, resentment is like drinking a poison and expecting the other person to die. That's another good one. Okay. So it's like the point that I'm trying to make here is it's okay to feel things like resentment, but train yourself to process it and handle it in a healthy way, and just don't let it run your life, because ultimately the only person you're hurting is yourself. Resentment is a choice. Taking things personally is a choice. You're the one who's deciding to get butthurt over something or to dwell on something, like, Yeah.
No, I'm glad you're saying this so I can process this. I'm going to listen to this later on so I can just tell myself, I get what you're saying. I totally agree. But man, sometimes I like hurting myself in that sense. I don't know. Sometimes, that's why I was sometimes I think it feeds into the self-destruction part. Mm-hmm. I don't know why it feels good, but I don't know. Sometimes it makes me feel like I'm not worthy, or it's like, oh, I don't know. There's just,
and everyone's situation is different, and this is why I'm. It's so funny how we're talking about the rooms a lot, but this is why I really like the whole sponsorship aspect of AA, is because like you work on your issues like uniquely to you. Like for me, like when I talk to my sponsor, like she's just talking to me and she's suggesting things like very specific and unique to my personal situation. So Vaughn, it's like if you have a sponsor, this could be like a good thing to bring up with him, or like not even a sponsor but a mentor. It's like, when it comes to inner work, you can't expect to have the answers overnight, like for instance, your question, like, why do I do this? Why do I like to ruminate and things like that? That's a very interesting question. And I think if you approach inner work with just this mindset of curiosity, instead of like, oh my God, I hate myself, I'm doing the thing again, where it's like, I'm resenting people. So don't look at your inner work that way. Look at it with curiosity. Look at it with an open mind. Like, that's really interesting that I'm doing this again. That's really interesting that my brain is going down the spiral again. what can I do about it? And then the more that you do that, then the more fun inner work becomes and the less of a burden it is. And the more you look at your inner work journey as like this evolving thing that's only for your greater good, you know? Because I know for me, Vaughn, like maybe not identical to you, but in the past, I would like feel a lot of shame around it. Like, oh my God, I'm doing that thing again where I compare myself. Oh my God, like I'm having such an insecure day and I would hate myself for it. But now it's like, I kind of like step away from my brain. And this is going into like a spiritual concept of like The Power Is Now by Eckhart Tolle, where it's like, you are not your thoughts. So when I'm thinking a shitty thought, I separate myself from it. Like here's my brain and here's Megan. And I'm looking at my brain and I'm like, huh, that's interesting. Look at Megan's brain right now. It's doing this thing. And that separation, it sounds so weird and woo-woo, but it's so powerful. So powerful.
You know, I used to listen to Eckhart Tolle, the audiobook back in the day for like all the time. I remember I listened to it like on days where I was like hungover, like coming down.
Yeah.
I'm like, man, maybe this will work this time, you know, but maybe this Eckhart Tolle will get me out of like doing drugs all the time. You know, it didn't help, but I think it can help for other things.
Yeah.
You know, you know, I have a therapist and she says, you know, I share with things that I'm going through. And she's like, that's interesting. You know, have you looked at journaling? Start journaling. I started doing that.
Awesome.
It's helping a little bit, but yeah, I have some days I don't have an issue with resentments, but some days I do. And some days I do take things personally, like at work when customers are rude.
Mm-hmm, of course.
And some days are better. Some days I'm like, it's cool, whatever. They're probably going through something.
Right.
Other days like, man, like what the heck? And you're right. I do realize that I'm still thinking about it like an hour or two after.
Right.
And it's ruining my focus and
it's ruining your day.
What I'm supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
It's ruining my day. And it's just tough.
You have to ask yourself, is this worth it? And that's the thing. And like everything that I do in life, Vaughn, I have two buckets for it. Two buckets. The bucket of, can I control this? Or can I not control this? And a lot of the times, the shit that I stress over goes in the other bucket, like the weather. Oh my God, traffic. Oh my God, that person said something mean to me. Oh, like this corporate bullshit at my job. It's like, can I control these things? No, I can't. So while it's fine to get angry and resentful, if I catch myself still thinking about it like an hour later, 2 hours later, I'm like, okay, is my time best spent dwelling on something I can change or actually taking action and doing something about it? You know, so it's like a muscle. You have to train yourself to like, you know, separate it into the two buckets. And the more you do that, the more you catch yourself, then the easier it's going to get. And I say this as someone who struggled with this for 10 years. If you talked to Megan 10 years ago, she was a dweller. She was a ruminator. She would think about things she did 5 years ago, you know, but now because I've practiced it over the years, it's so easy for me now. Even something like this shit with my job, it's so big and massive. I thought about it for like an hour and I'm like, okay, I've moved on to the next.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I hope to be where you're at right now.
Yeah.
With the worth it, not worth it. I catch myself a lot of times when I ruminate, I'm thinking, okay, I've done this for X amount of time. It's not serving me. I got things to do.
Exactly. Yeah.
And what I've been doing, what's helping a lot, in my head, I have a dialogue. So let's say like I'm cleaning something at work. I'm literally telling myself, okay, I'm cleaning something. I am sweeping.
Mm-hmm.
This is what I'm doing. I'm sweeping this right now. Or like if I'm mopping, okay, I'm mopping, get the corners, this and that. And that kind of helps.
Yeah. Yeah.
But you're right. Is it worth it? Part of me, I think it's old thinking. Yeah, it's kind of worth it. Like,
yeah, kind of.
I don't know. Maybe this is kind of, wow, it feels good. Like I think of situations how I get them back or maybe I should have said this and that,
mm-hmm.
but I don't know. I just thought of this right now. Maybe this is like that. Maybe I'm trying to get myself to a point where I've set myself so much that I'll consider using again.
Yeah, maybe.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe.
The brain is a tricky thing. It is a tricky thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because, like sometimes in the beginning, like in the earlier recovery stages, I like to really push myself, like reading certain books, like The Body Keeps Score.
I've heard of that one, but I haven't read it.
Yeah. I was new into recovery and the first intro like really triggered me. And I'm like, maybe I should keep reading. But then maybe I should, in my head, I'm like, maybe I shouldn't.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I'm tricking myself. If I get so triggered, I'll have no excuse but to get high. So I returned that book to my friend.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So, okay. Like you talk about resilience. Feels like I read, listened to your podcast and read your stuff. You went through quite a lot.
Yeah.
Talk to us about resilience. What is resilience to you, and what has it taught you?
Oh, see, I love this topic because like you can ask 30 different people and you'll get 30 different answers. But I think like in short for me, it's just the choice to keep living, the choice to keep getting up. That's resilience to me. If I could put it very simply, life gets you down because that's life. Like shit happens to you, whether it's loss, whether it's betrayal, whether it's you get laid off from your job. There are so many things you can go through in life because that's life. But resilience is choosing to say, you know what? I'm going to keep going. I'm going to wake up the next day. I'm going to keep living my life. So for instance, for me, like loss, like I went through a stillbirth in 2019. Like I lost a baby. And I know I've talked to other people who've been through loss. It's one of the hardest things a person could ever go through. And to addicts, oh my God, that's the biggest thing that caused people to relapse. That was why I relapsed in 2019. I relapsed because of that. Because I was like, well, fuck this. What's the point of being sober 6 years and then life gives me this shit? And it's like I relapsed, and like what you said, Vaughn, I used to trigger as an excuse to be like, oh, fuck it, let's go to the bar, right? But resilience to me, it's like learning how to handle even something like that and saying to yourself, you know what, like I don't have to stay, again, going back to the dwelling, I don't have to stay in this spot. It's okay to process it. Like with grief, it's okay to go through grief, to grieve for a month, 2 months or whatever, but that shouldn't be your whole life, right? You should not go to your deathbed in that negative emotion. And I'm sure my daughter who I lost would not want that for me either. So specific to loss, it's like, would she want to look down on her mom just drinking away her days and being a bum at home, not doing anything? No, she'd be like, yo, woman, get your ass up and like do something with your life, right? And so that's what I tell myself. It's just the choice to keep going, the choice not to give up, even if it takes you 1 month, 2 months, a year to get to that point. I know everyone's journey is different, but eventually you've got to get your ass back up and keep going. So that to me is resilience.
Wow, thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
I can't even imagine what you went through. And I like that you were able to pick yourself up after a relapse.
Mm-hmm.
I'm scared of relapsing. I think it's what keeps me from not doing it.
Yeah.
Because drugs now, they're a little different than they were a few years ago.
Yeah.
A lot of fentanyl in them.
Yeah.
And for me, hypothetically, if I was to use again, I know I wouldn't take a baby dose. I would take the same dose that I did before I stopped using. Yeah. And I don't realize this in my head that, hey, you were clean for X amount of time.
Yeah.
I don't know.
No, that's a common fallacy.
It can be.
That's a fallacy. And I've spoken to a lot of people in the rooms, and I'm sure you have too. I've spoken to people who were sober 40 years and then they relapsed because it's a fallacy in your mind of like, oh, because I've been clean X amount of time, I'm safe now. I'm okay now. No, it doesn't matter if you're 1 month sober or 50 years sober. If you're an addict, you're an addict. Period.
Yeah. Yeah. And realistically, I don't think I would overdose, but I do know it would start. Okay. I relapsed this one time. I'm not going to do it again. Another week comes by. Oh, it's okay.
See,
you're thinking I didn't die last time.
The fact that you're ruminating on this right now of like, oh, I don't think I would overdose. Or you know what? Oh, I handled that first relapse fine. I think I'll do it again. Your thought process right now is a very typical addict. And I know because because I'm an addict.
Yeah. Okay. Random question. Yeah. Do you drink non-alcoholic beer?
Oh, non-alcoholic beer. I think I've tasted it back in the day, but no, when it comes to like non-alcoholic, like mocktails and beverages, I really don't. I'm pretty boring when it comes to beverages. I just drink like coffee in the morning and water and juice and stuff. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't do non-alcoholic beer. There's a couple times when I drank it. I felt this is what time when I think I told myself, all right, guys, this was years ago before I even got clean. I was like, okay, everybody's drinking in the dinner,
Yeah.
And I've ordered like 4 non-alcoholic beers in a span of like 10 minutes.
Oh, wow.
And I didn't like it because I was like, nothing's happening in my head. I'm tricking myself. Thank you. Yeah.
I say that as like
nothing's
not
happening.
An offensive way, but it's just funny.
No, of course. It's just like, I'm like, nothing's happening. And my friends like, oh, don't drink, like everybody's drinking like their drinks, alcoholic drinks. And don't drink, bro, don't drink. I'm like, yeah, you're right. But let me get another O'Doul.
You know what? I think that's why, now that you're saying this, I think that's why I don't like mocktails and fake things, is because to me it's like pointless. It's like my alcoholic brain is saying, well, why am I having this when I can just have the real thing? This is so stupid. It's like eating an Oreo without like the filling. Or it's like eating a pizza without the cheese. It's, to me, it's just like dumb. It's pointless. So that's why I don't do it.
Yeah. Some people, they genuinely drink beer for the taste.
Okay.
Sometimes, yeah, I don't. Yeah, I mean, I guess it's kind of tasty. Like,
yeah,
towards the end, I drank IPAs because it was a mechanism in my head, and I said, I physically can't pound this. I physically can't do it. Like, it tastes so gross. But I liked it.
Yeah.
But I was like, this is not a Modelo. I can't pound. That's why I started drinking them. I don't have to have as much.
Right.
But I did drugs instead, afterwards. But yeah. That's why I like ginger beer.
Yeah.
That stuff's good.
Yeah. I was never into beer, but you're kind of talking my language of like, what will give me the most impact in like the smallest amount? That's for me. That's what I loved. Like, for me, like back when I drank, it was wine. I loved wine because I could drink like 10 bottles, and taking shots because it's, again, like liquor, like that's the fastest way to get drunk. And for me, it's about how quickly can I get there.
The way you're moving your eyes, you're at it. When you're thinking, I saw that. I'm like, oh yeah.
Like, I love how we can laugh about it though. Thinking. And this is like what I loved about the rooms. It's like, as you said, there's a lot of ways to get sober, but something really special about the rooms, like AA, NA, it's you can have these convos with people and you will just laugh about it. And you'll be like, yo, you're such an alcoholic. But it's like this community. Yeah. You know?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, my friends and I send drug memes to each other back and forth. And I can look back, I'm like, yo, this was fun.
Yeah.
It was never like, oh, I got to stop, sending these. But like looking at it now, like, I think humor's helped a lot.
Yeah.
I can look back and think, okay, that was fun. Or I can relate to these memes. A lot of them don't, like, oh, you're like up at 6 a.m. You got work in like an hour. And like, yeah, I can totally relate to that.
Yeah.
So it's like, I can think of I can think of how fun it was, but I can also be realistic and also think about what happened after.
Exactly.
Yeah, it was cool. You get high like at nighttime, but hey, you remember what happened 6 a.m. You got work at 9 o'clock.
Right.
Either, and you probably called out. You remember how that was. You remember how that felt. You remember this and that.
Right.
So
right.
I still like entertain these ideas, but now I think I like to be realistic and think what happened after.
Yeah, and over time, making the same mistake over and over, it's not fun. And that's another quote from the Big Book. It's like, insanity is repeating the same mistake over and over and expecting different results. So for me, that was like what led to my sobriety journey. I got tired of repeating the same shit over and over. Because like, yeah, in the beginning, it's like, haha, oh, look at Megan, she's doing her stupid shit. But it's like after the 1000th time, it's like, okay, this is not funny anymore. It's not funny. Yeah.
Yeah. By the way, this podcast is not sponsored by AA or NA.
No, it's not.
Tell anybody that. No, it's not.
That would be awesome if they sponsored it, though.
No, that goes against our traditions. Right. We can't be doing that. No. Yeah, can't do that. But yeah, no, it's really cool to talk to somebody about addiction. Yeah,
no, I get especially you, bro. I get you. Like, totally.
Yeah, you get me. Especially like, again, I don't know why it's a big taboo in Asian culture and Filipino culture. I don't see too many in the rooms. Yeah. Maybe they found out how to get clean a different way, but no, that's, yeah. So, the podcast, Untouchable Babes, how'd you get the name?
How did I get the name? Well, as you know, I'm a Stoic, right? That's the line of philosophy that I like to follow. And I just wanted a name for, first of all, my target audience is women, right? So I just wanted something that's like, how do I name this so like women know it's for women, but I'm also like alluding to like the whole mindset aspect of like stoicism, having a strong mind, mastering your mind. And I chose the word untouchable because it defines to me like what we were talking about earlier of like the two buckets, right? Sorting things into what can I control versus what I cannot control. And I believe that once you master that skill, the more untouchable you become, as in like the less things affect you. So going back to your point of like, oh my God, I'm ruminating again. I'm, obsessing over this again. It's like the more you practice the skill of like stoicism and not expending energy and time and effort on things you can't control, whether it's people, places, things, jobs, your car, right? Everything in life, the more you master that, the more untouchable in your mind you become, the more at peace you become. So that was why I chose that name.
It's a cool name.
Yeah.
I'm all for podcasts that empower women.
Thank you.
I'm all for that. Yeah, because I do feel like, I don't know, maybe not anymore, but I feel like back then podcasts had this, it's a guy thing kind of thing. But now I see more women getting into it, which is really good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also too, so when is do you have a certain schedule of when you release?
So interesting question. This ties back to the whole soft life question where I had to really like change my strategy. In the beginning, when I launched early this year, I had a goal of like weekly, which is pretty, I feel like that's a best practice that a lot of content creators advise, right? Like, post weekly, like whether it's YouTube or Spotify, whatever. And I tried that and it worked for like a month, 2 months, but then I started feeling burned out again because again, it's like my situation hasn't changed. I'm still a single mom. I still got the 9 to 5.
Right.
So I changed to a bi-weekly schedule, which helped a lot for me.
Oh.
And then now, actually, as we speak, I am redesigning my schedule again so that I'm going to release whenever I feel like it. So you could say more of like an ad hoc flexible schedule just because right now I got to look for a job. Work's getting busy. So it's like respecting, again, soft life, respecting your needs, respecting your health, respecting your wellness. But it doesn't mean you have to pause your goals entirely. Like I'm not stopping my podcast. It's still happening, but I'm doing it on my own terms. And I'm placing less of a burden and less of like an expectation, like the stuff you said, Vaughn, of like the followers and the metrics. It's like, I really like, if that stuff happens, great. That's great. That's wonderful. And I strive for that. But right now in this season of my life, this is what works best for me. Right. So that's my schedule whenever I feel like it. And I just hope this speaks to people who feel that pressure to be like, oh my God, you have to be weekly every single week. And you need to have a YouTube video to go along. And you need to have a newsletter and you need to have a lead magnet. It's stressful. So I'm like, you can still do this, but you can take it on your own pace. And then you can lead up to that step, but like take it at your own pace. And it works best for you.
I like that you're honest about that, because it's very real that, hey, we have lives. Right. A lot of us aren't full-time content creators. I think that when people see the term content creator, there's an assumption this is what they do like their whole lot, like the whole day, when a lot of times they don't.
Right.
And that's really awesome that you can share that, hey, right now it's whenever I can, whenever I'm able to. Mm-hmm. I will say uploading every week, it's fun, but it's stressful.
It's stressful.
Sometimes I'm laying in bed. I'm like, all right, I gotta like,
it's like you never stop. Your brain never stops. And that's the thing for me. It's like, I wish I had the time for that, but it's like, I got other things I need my brain for. I cannot constantly be thinking about like, what's the next episode? 100%. What's the next topic?
Yeah. 100%. Like some days I like making music and podcasting.
Yeah.
Some days it takes a toll, or it's like, it's draining. And I'm learning to like tell myself, it's okay. You don't have to like upload a reel like every single day. That's what Instagram recommends.
Or even more than that. Like the actual recommendation that I hear influencers say is 3 or more times a day on all platforms, on TikTok, on Instagram, on YouTube Short. It's like cross-platform, multiple times a day posting, and your Instagram stories. It's like, holy shit. Like I cannot. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Yeah. The day I stopped going on TikTok, I think I felt a weight off my shoulder.
Oh my God.
Because it never worked for me.
Yeah.
I kept trying so hard. I mean, I give myself A for effort for trying, but after a few months, I realized, hey, this is not for you. It's not translating into podcast listeners. Mm-hmm. It's not. It really isn't. And I tell myself, it's okay.
Yeah.
So
I'm exactly like you. I've given up on TikTok.
Yeah.
Well, not entirely. I'll still post whenever I feel like it, but it's definitely the least important app on my phone right now. Yeah. And it's so freeing to not worry about, oh my God, I got to post 5 times a day on TikTok. Like, it's so great.
Yeah. Where can we find you on social media and all that?
Yeah. So that's a great leeway. So as I said, I'm still on TikTok. And my old like motherhood, because I did start off in the motherhood niche. So my stuff is still there and the viral stuff is still there because I feel like it's valuable. But I don't post there quite nearly as much. I post like whenever I feel like it. So I'm on TikTok. I'm loving Threads. I would say Threads is like my number 1 app right now. I love it. It's a great community there. Instagram occasionally. And Vaughn talked about my podcast. It's on Spotify. and it's on Apple Podcasts. And I do also want to say just a little quick plug, including you, Vaughn. If anyone wants to be a guest on my podcast, like if you are into like mindset stuff, yeah, like Vaughn, you're next, bro. I'm hitting you up.
Hit me up.
Yeah. Like I'm open to having more guests on because I think that will help like my schedule as well and kind of less of a burden to like produce your own content. But I'm looking to just add more of a mix of like different voices outside of my own. But yeah, in terms of where people can find me, that's pretty much it. Yeah.
Awesome. Salamat, Meg.
Oh, salamat. Maraming salamat.
Salamat. Wala naman. Ingat. That's all the time for today.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. I'm going to stop this really quick and just go over some things. Okay. So